3 months after the battle in the Deep Black, the galaxy was still trying to understand what had happened. Peace talks were underway on a new space station, built specifically for this purpose. But the real work was happening everywhere else. In meetings and arguments and slow, careful steps toward trust, Yanwu stood in the center of it all. He had aged in these months. His hair had more gray, his face had more lines, but his eyes were clearer than they had been in years. He was watching something he had never expected to see. A Krathul delegate shaking hands with a council member. Both of them awkward, both of them trying. "It is not enough," a voice said beside him. Velshar had come to stand next to the human ambassador. The old snake-like being looked tired but satisfied. "Peace on paper means nothing if hearts remain hostile. But it is a start. A start is all we need," Yanwu replied. "Humans are good at taking small steps for a long time. It is how we hunted, how we survived. We will do the same with peace." The Treaty of Veloth had been signed yesterday. The Krathul would join the Galactic Council. Humanity would provide resources and help them find new worlds. In return, the war would end. No more attacks, no more death. Just the hard work of learning to live together. But not everyone was happy. On Earth, Jiwan's court-martial had become the biggest news story in human history. She was being charged with mutiny, with attacking fellow humans, with putting alien lives above human interests. The trial was being broadcast across every human world. Jiwan stood in the courtroom. Her uniform was crisp. Her back was straight. She showed no fear. Around her, the room was packed with people. Some supported her. Others wanted her executed. But everyone wanted to hear what she would say. "Commander Jiwan," the judge said, "you are accused of the highest military crimes. How do you answer?" "I did what I believed was right," she replied. Her voice carried to every corner of the room. "General Jae-hyun was going to commit genocide. I stopped him. If that is a crime, then I am guilty." The prosecutor stepped forward. "He was young and ambitious. You fired on human ships. On your own people. How can you justify that?" "Because my people were about to become monsters," Jiwan said calmly. "We had a choice. We could prove every legend right, show the galaxy that humans are the violent predators they fear, or we could show them we have evolved beyond our worst impulses. I chose evolution over extinction." Witnesses were called. Tai Yang explained the tactical situation. How Jae-hyun's attack would have killed millions. How there had been no time for anything except direct action. Bora, still recovering from her injuries, talked about the choice to disable rather than destroy. How every crew member had made the same decision. Then Admiral Corvin appeared via hologram. An alien testifying in a human court. The first time such a thing had ever happened. "I have fought many species," Corvin said. His forearms moved as he spoke, a gesture of deep respect in his culture. "I have seen bravery and cowardice, cruelty and mercy, but I have never seen anything like what Commander Jiwan did. She chose the hard path, the painful path, and because of that choice, peace became possible." The prosecutor tried again. "But the legends say humans are persistence hunters, that you never give up, that you hunt until nothing remains." Commander Jiwan gave up. She stopped hunting. Does that not make her a traitor to human nature? Jiwan smiled for the first time since the trial began. "You misunderstand what we hunt for. Yes, our ancestors hunted animals. They ran for days, tracking and following until their prey collapsed. But do you know why they did that? Not because they loved killing. Because they wanted to survive, to feed their families, to see tomorrow." She stood up, looking at the camera that broadcast her words to billions. "We are still persistence hunters, but now we hunt for peace, for understanding, for a galaxy where our children do not have to fight the same wars we did, and I will hunt for that until I die. That is human nature." The courtroom erupted. Half the people cheered. Half shouted in anger. The judge called for order, but it took several minutes. Finally, the jury was sent to deliberate. While they waited, Da-un came to visit Jiwan in her holding cell. The young scientist looked excited. "I finished translating the final prophecy tablet," she said, "the one that was buried deepest in the archives. Do you want to know what it says?" Jiwan shook her head. "No. Whatever it says, we have already made our choice. We are not bound by ancient words," Daeun smiled. "You should hear it anyway. It says, they who endure beyond reason will either destroy all or teach all to endure. The choice was always theirs." Jiwan thought about that. The choice was always theirs. Not destiny. Not fate, choice. Maybe that was the real human superpower. Not the ability to persist, but the ability to choose what to persist toward. The jury came back with their verdict after 6 hours. Guilty of violating orders, not guilty of mutiny, not guilty of treason. The recommended sentence was demotion and discharge from service. But the judge, an old woman who had served in 3 wars herself, overruled them. "Commander Jiwan," she said, "you made an impossible choice in an impossible situation. You valued peace over protocol, life over orders. I cannot punish you for that." Case dismissed. Earth celebrated, but Jiwan felt no joy. She had won in court, but she had seen the faces of those who disagreed. Jae-hyun's supporters were still out there. The ideology had not disappeared. The belief that strength meant crushing your enemy still existed. She retired from military service. Accepted a position as council military advisor. Her first act was writing new rules of engagement, rules that prioritized preserving life, rules that made genocide impossible no matter how justified it seemed. 5 years passed. The galaxy changed slowly, as all real change does. Human and Krathul colonies were established on new worlds. Joint projects brought species together. The war became history, taught in schools as a lesson learned. Jiwan visited one of these joint colonies. It was a beautiful world with 2 suns and purple grass. Human and Krathul children played together in the settlement center. They had invented a game that combined human running with Krathul crystal growing. It made no sense, but they were laughing. A human child fell and scraped her knee. A Krathul child, young enough that his crystal body was still growing, helped her up. Used his own shell fragment to bandage the wound. The human child hugged him, something that would have been unthinkable 5 years ago. Daun walked up beside Jiwan. She was council historian now, writing the true story of what had happened, making sure future generations understood. "I finished the final prophecy tablet translation," she said. "Want to know what it really said about the endurance predators?" Jiwan watched the children play, watched humans and Krathul working together to build something new, watched the future being born in front of her eyes. "No," she said softly. "I think we wrote our own ending." Daun smiled. But she showed Jiwan the tablet anyway. Because some things needed to be said, needed to be known. The ancient text was simple and clear. They who endure beyond reason will either destroy all or teach all to endure. The choice was always theirs. Jiwan read it and nodded. Yes, the choice had always been theirs. And they had chosen. Not to stop being hunters. Not to stop being persistent. But to hunt for something worth having. Peace. Understanding. A galaxy where children of different species could play together without fear. That was the hunt worth pursuing. And humans would pursue it with the same endless determination they had once used for prey. They would track it across decades if necessary. Across centuries. Because that was what humans did. They picked a goal and never stopped until they reached it. And if some species still feared them, that was fine. Let them fear. Let them remember that humans were the species that fought themselves rather than become monsters. Let them remember that the most dangerous predator was the one that chose not to kill. Back on Veloth Prime, in the council chambers, a new member was being sworn in. Minsu was young, barely 20. He had enlisted after watching the war on broadcasts, had trained under Taeyang himself, and now he represented the next generation of humanity. When asked what humanity wanted from the galaxy, he gave a simple answer. One that would have made Jiwan proud. "We want what we have always wanted," he said. To survive. To see tomorrow. To make sure our children have a future worth living in. We will work for that, fight for that if necessary. But we would rather build it together. Because that is what we learned. That is what we choose. The galaxy watched. Some still suspicious, some still afraid. But more and more they were beginning to hope. Because if humans could change, could choose peace after millennia of war, maybe anyone could. Maybe the cycle could finally be broken. And in the end, that was the real legend. Not the humans who never gave up, but the humans who gave up being monsters, who chose to hunt for something better, who proved that even the most dangerous predator could become the most dedicated protector. That was the story that would be told for thousands of years. Not of humans, the destroyers, but humans, the teachers. The species that showed the galaxy how to endure, how to persist, how to never give up. Not on war, but on peace. And that was a legend worth living up to. News traveled fast across the galaxy. The human victory at Calthon system was on every screen, every broadcast, every whispered conversation. Some called it a miracle. Others called it madness. A few called it exactly what they had feared all along. Hyunwoo stood before the Galactic Council once more. But this time the atmosphere was different. The species were divided. He could see it in their faces, hear it in their voices. Some wanted more human help. Others wanted humans gone before it was too late. You violated direct orders, a council member accused. She was an Erythian, a species known for their peaceful ways. Her name was Thess, and her voice shook with anger. Your commander was told to stay in the rear. Instead, she attacked alone, risking war with the Krathul becoming even worse. She saved lives, Hyunwoo replied calmly. Admiral Corvin himself said so. Without her actions, his entire fleet would have been destroyed. But at what cost? Thess stood, her blue robes flowing around her. I have seen the footage. The way your people fight. It is barbaric. You ram enemy ships, you board them and fight hand to hand. You sacrifice yourselves without hesitation. Is this what you will bring to the galaxy? Endless violence? Before Hyunwoo could answer, Velshar raised his hand for silence. The old council speaker looked tired. He had watched the footage too. He had seen things that gave him nightmares. 5 more human ships have arrived, Velshar said. They are waiting at the edge of our space. Their commander is someone called General Jae-hyun. He has sent a message. He wants permission to join the war effort. Hyunwoo felt his stomach tighten. Jae-hyun. Of all the commanders Earth could have sent, they sent him. A man who believed that peace only came after total victory. A man who had won Earth's corporate wars through tactics that made even other humans uncomfortable. We should send them back, Thess said immediately. We should end this experiment before humanity corrupts everything the Council stands for. We should give them medals, another voice called out. It was Admiral Corvin, attending the session via hologram. I was there. I saw what one human ship accomplished. Imagine what 6 could do. The Council erupted into argument. Hyunwoo stood silently, listening to them tear each other apart over his species. He thought about Daun, working day and night to translate more of the ancient texts. She had found something new, something troubling. The prophecy was longer than anyone had known. It spoke of humanity's dual nature, their capacity for both infinite kindness and infinite cruelty, how they could heal or harm with equal dedication. The ancient species had left a warning. Work with humans and they would die for you. Work against them and they would hunt you to extinction. But try to control them, and you would learn why even their own planet had been afraid of them. On the Indomitable, now docked for repairs, Ji-won met Jae-hyun for the first time in 3 years. He had not changed, still tall and broad with eyes that never seemed to blink, still wearing his uniform like armor, still treating war like a game he was born to win. Commander Ji-won, he said, not saluting. I heard about your victory. Very dramatic, very reckless. It worked, she replied, this time, but you were lucky. I have seen the tactical reports. The Krathul could have destroyed you 10 times over. They chose to retreat because you confused them. That trick will not work twice. Then what do you suggest? Jae-hyun smiled. It was not a nice smile. We stop playing defense. We take the war to them. We find their civilian stations, their supply lines, their colonies. We make them afraid to fight us. That is how you win wars. By killing innocents? Ji-won felt her anger rising. That is not warfare. That is murder. That is survival, Jae-hyun corrected. The Krathul attacked a council civilian station last week. Killed 3,000 beings. Where was your mercy then? Ji-won had no answer for that. Because he was right. The Krathul had struck without warning, without mercy. And the council had done nothing but file a formal complaint. Tae-yang interrupted their argument. He looked excited, which was unusual for him. I have been analyzing Krathul communications, the ones we captured from damaged ships, and I found something strange. What? Both commanders asked at once. They are afraid of us, not because of our weapons or our tactics, because of who we are. They have legends, too, about a species that hunted across entire continents that never gave up, that slowly wore down everything in their path. They think we are going to do to them what we did to each other for thousands of years. The room fell silent. Ji-won thought about Earth's history, the wars that lasted decades, the hunts that crossed oceans, the determination to survive no matter the cost. Humanity had been fighting and killing itself for so long that they had become very, very good at it. So this entire war, she said slowly, started because they were afraid of a legend? It appears that way, Taeyang confirmed. They wanted to destroy the council before humanity could join it. They saw us as the greater threat, Jae-hyun laughed. It was a harsh sound. Then let us prove them right. Let us show them that their fears were justified. Let us end this war the only way that matters. Total victory? No, Ji-won said. We show them their fears were wrong. We show them humans can choose mercy. That is weakness, that is strength. Anyone can destroy. It takes real power to protect. The argument was interrupted by an emergency alert, another Krathel attack. This time on a medical station. Hundreds of wounded council soldiers. No defenses. The fleet was too far away to help in time, except for the human ships. They were close enough, barely. Jae-hyun stood up. I will go. My ships are ready. What will you do when you get there? Ji-won asked quietly. Whatever is necessary to win. That was what Ji-won feared. She had seen Jae-hyun win before. Had seen what his victories looked like. Burning cities. Broken surrenders. Victory at any price. Back on Veloth Prime, Hyun-woo received an urgent message from Velshar. The council had made a decision. Humanity would be allowed to stay and fight. But they needed one supreme commander. One voice. One person who would answer to the council and control all human military forces. There were two choices. Jae-hyun, who promised victory no matter the cost, or Ji-won, who insisted that humanity could be better than its worst impulses. Hyun-woo had to choose. Right now, because human ships were already moving toward the medical station, and whatever happened there would define humanity's place in the galaxy forever. He thought about Da-eun's research, about the ancient warnings, about species that had either allied with humanity or disappeared. He thought about his own children back on Earth, and what kind of galaxy he wanted them to inherit. Then he made his choice. He only hoped it was the right one, because there would be no going back from this moment. Humanity's true nature was about to be revealed to the galaxy, and everyone would have to live with the consequences. The deep black earned its name. Space here was wrong. Stars flickered and died. Gravity pulled in directions that made no sense. Ships that entered often never came back out. But this was where the Krathel homeworld was hidden. And this was where the war would end one way or another. Ji-won stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching her fleet assemble. 6 human ships now, 40 council vessels, all of them preparing to enter a place that appeared on maps as a warning, not a destination. She had been named Supreme Commander of Human Forces. Hyun-woo had chosen her, but Jae-hyun was her second in command and she could feel his anger like heat from a fire. The math does not work, Taeyang said quietly. He had been running calculations for days. The gravitational anomalies shift every few hours. By the time we calculate a safe path, it will have changed. We need real-time navigation. We need someone who can feel the patterns, not just see them. Then that is what we will do, Ji-won replied. Humans hunted by following tracks that changed with every wind. We will do the same here. Admiral Corvin's hologram appeared. My fleet is ready. But I must warn you, Commander. If we get lost in there will be no rescue. No one has ever mapped the deep black. Then we will be the first, Ji-won said simply. They entered the deep black in formation. Within minutes, ships began reporting problems. Navigation systems going haywire. Sensors showing readings that could not be real. 3 council ships had to turn back immediately. Their crews too disoriented to continue. But the human ships kept going. Taeyang had trained each navigator personally. They did not rely on instruments alone. They watched the patterns of the distortions, looked for the spaces between the chaos, used the same instincts their ancestors had used to track animals across continents. I have a path, Taeyang announced. It is not safe, but it exists. Nothing about this is safe, Ji-won replied. Send the coordinates to the fleet. Tell them to follow our exact trajectory. No deviations. They lost 2 ships to gravitational shear in the first hour. 1 council vessel that strayed from the path. 1 human ship that tried to rescue them. Both were torn apart by forces that should not exist. But the rest kept going. Deeper and deeper into the impossible dark. Jae-hyun's voice came over the private channel. This is insane. We should turn back, regroup, find another way. There is no other way, Ji-won said. The Krathel have been using the deep black as a shield for decades. If we turn back now, the war continues forever. Then let me take my ships ahead. We will clear the path with force if necessary. Negative. We stay together. She cut the channel. She knew what Jae-hyun wanted. He wanted to reach the Krathul first, wanted to attack before anyone could stop him, wanted to prove his way was right. In the science section, Da-eun was trying to establish communication with the Krathul. It was a long shot. The Krathul had refused all contact attempts. But she had been studying their language, their culture. She thought she understood something that others had missed. She sent her message on all frequencies. A simple statement in their crystal language. Not a threat. Not a demand. Just a question. Why are you fighting? For hours there was nothing. Then, as the fleet emerged from the worst of the anomalies, a reply came. It was from someone called Matriarch Kelvar, the leader of the entire Krathul Dominion. Her hologram appeared on the bridge. She was ancient. Her crystal body was filled with cracks and scars from countless battles, but her eyes were sharp and aware. You ask why we fight, Kelvar said. Her voice was like breaking glass. We fight because we are dying. Our worlds can no longer support us. We need new homes, new resources. The council refused to help, so we took what we needed. Ji-won stepped forward. And the attacks on civilians? The destruction of entire stations? War is not clean, Kelvar replied. You should know this, human. I have studied your history. You have killed billions of your own kind. You have burned your own world more times than I can count. And now you judge us? Ji-won felt those words like a physical blow, because they were true. Humanity had done terrible things, was still capable of terrible things. You're right, she said quietly. We have no moral high ground, but we learned something from all that killing. We learned that it never ends. That violence just creates more violence. That winning a war means nothing if you become a monster in the process. Pretty words, Kelvar said, but you came here to destroy us. I can see your fleet. I know what you plan to do. I came here to offer you a choice, Ji-won said. Stop the war. Let us help you find new worlds. There is enough space in the galaxy for everyone. We do not need to kill each other. Before Kelvar could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. Jae-hyun's ships had broken formation. They were accelerating toward the Krathul home system. Weapons charging. All human vessels, this is General Jae-hyun. His voice boomed across all channels. We end this now. We show them what happens when you threaten humanity. We show them what real predators look like. Stand down, Ji-won ordered. That is a direct order, General. I do not take orders from cowards, Jae-hyun replied. You want to show mercy? Fine, but I will show strength. And when this is over, we will see which the galaxy respects more. Ji-won made her decision in a heartbeat. All Indomitable crew prepare for combat. We are intercepting General Jae-hyun's fleet. Shocked silence filled the bridge. Commander, Tae-yang said carefully, you want us to fight other humans? I want us to stop a massacre, she replied. Move to intercept now. The galaxy watched as human ships turned on each other. The Indomitable and two other vessels that stayed loyal to Ji-won moved to block Jae-hyun's path. His 3 ships did not slow down. This is your last warning, Ji-won said. Power down your weapons or we will fire on you. You would not dare, Jae-hyun said. Ji-won proved him wrong. The Indomitable fired. Not to kill. Bora had worked miracles, modifying the weapons to disable rather than destroy. But it was still humans firing on humans. It was still the thing they had all feared. The battle was short but brutal. Jae-hyun fought back, but his ships were outnumbered. One by one, their weapons went offline. Their engines sputtered and died. They drifted in space, helpless but intact. The Indomitable paid a heavy price. Hull breaches on every deck. Life support failing. Half the crew injured. Bora was pulled from the wreckage of the engine room, barely alive. But they had done it. They had stopped the massacre. On the Krathul homeworld, Matriarch Kelvar watched in stunned silence. She had expected the humans to destroy her people, expected them to prove every fear, every legend true. Instead, they had fought themselves, had chosen mercy over victory. For the first time in decades, she felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope Ji-won pulled herself from her chair. Blood ran down her face from a dozen cuts. Her ship was dying around her. But she keyed open the channel to Kelvar one more time. The offer still stands, she said, her voice weak but steady. Peace, help. A future where no one else has to die. What do you say? Kelvar looked at this human commander. This being who had fought her own kind to save an enemy, who had sacrificed everything for a chance at peace. And she realized something important. The legends had been wrong. Or maybe they had been right all along. Humans were dangerous. They were relentless. They never gave up. But that meant they never gave up on peace either. Once they decided to hunt for something, they hunted until they found it, and they had decided to hunt for peace. "We accept," Kelvar said finally. "Let us talk. Let us see if peace is truly possible." The Calthon system was dying. G1 could see it through the viewport of the Indomitable. 3 planets all burning, debris fields where stations used to be, and everywhere the wreckage of ships that had tried to defend this place and failed. "Admiral Corvin's fleet is holding position near the 4th planet," Tae Yang reported from his station. He was young, barely in his 20s, but he could read battle patterns like others read books. "They are waiting for the next attack." "How many ships does he have?" G1 asked. 42. "The Krath'll have over 60. Tae Yang paused. "Admiral Corvin has lost 7 battles in this system. The Council wants him to retreat, but he refuses to abandon the remaining colonists." G1 nodded slowly. She understood that kind of stubbornness. It was the same thing that had kept humanity alive through ice ages and plagues and wars. Sometimes refusing to give up was the only weapon you had. The communication screen lit up. A face appeared. Admiral Corvin had 4 arms and skin like gray stone. 2 of those arms ended in metal prosthetics. The war had taken pieces of him, but his eyes were still sharp. "So you are the humans," he said. His voice was deep and rough. "I was told to expect you. I was told not to expect much. What are your orders, Admiral?" G1 asked, ignoring the insult. "Stay in the rear. Provide support fire if needed. Do not engage the enemy directly. Your ship is too valuable to lose in your first battle." He almost smiled. "The Council made me promise to keep you safe." "Understood," G1 said, though her jaw tightened. The Krath'ul came 6 hours later. Their ships moved in perfect formation like crystal daggers cutting through space. They were beautiful in a terrible way. Each vessel was made of the same material as their bodies, some kind of living crystal that could repair itself and grow stronger with each battle. "They are in attack formation," Tae Yang announced. "Same pattern as the last 7 battles. They will split into 3 groups, surround the fleet, and destroy it piece by piece." "And Corvin's response?" G1 asked. "Defensive formation. Try to hold the line until the transports can escape with the colonists." Tae Yang looked up from his screens. "It has not worked the last 7 times." G1 watched the battle unfold. Corvin's ships moved into position, forming a wall between the Krath'ul and the planet. It was noble. It was brave. It was also exactly what the enemy expected. The Krath'ul split up as predicted, their weapons fired with perfect accuracy. One Council ship exploded, then another. The defensive line began to crumble. "Retreat order incoming," the communications officer said. "All ships are to fall back to the jump point." G1 made her decision in a heartbeat. "Ignore that order." Her crew stared at her. "Commander," Tae Yang said carefully. "I said ignore it. All power to engines. We are going in." Down in engineering, Bo-Ra heard the order and grinned. She was older than most of the crew, with gray in her hair and scars on her hands from a lifetime of fixing things that should not work. "You heard the commander. Give her everything we have." The Indomitable shot forward. Not toward the sides like a proper support ship. Not toward the rear like a ship trying to escape. Straight ahead. Directly into the center of the Krath'ul formation. "They are locking weapons on us," Tae Yang said. His voice was steady, but his hands gripped his console. 20 ships. All firing. "Evasive pattern, Sierra," G1 ordered. "And return fire. All weapons." What happened next would be talked about in council chambers for years to come. The human ship moved like nothing they had ever seen. It twisted and rolled, ducking between enemy fire with movements that seemed impossible for a ship that size. And every time it moved, it fired back. The Krath'ul were used to enemies who fought with precision, who calculated firing angles and kept safe distances. The Indomitable did none of those things. It came in close, so close that some Krath'ul ships pulled back rather than risk collision. "Ram them if you have to," G1 said calmly. "Show them we are not afraid to die." Tae Yang saw it first. Their formation is breaking. They are confused. They do not know how to respond to this. "Of course they are confused," G1 said. A blast rocked the ship, but she did not move from her chair. "They fight like they are afraid to get hurt. We fight like we have already accepted death." The other council ships saw what was happening, saw the Krath'ul pulling back, their perfect formation in chaos, and one by one they stopped retreating. They turned around. They came back. Admiral Corvin's voice came over the communication channel. All ships follow the human. Attack formation. Show them we can fight like demons too. The battle turned savage. The Indomitable took hit after hit. Hull breaches on 3 decks. Fire in the engine room. Half the weapons offline. But Bora and her team worked miracles, patching holes with whatever they could find. Rerouting power through damaged systems. Keeping the ship alive through pure determination. We should retreat, one of the crew said, his voice shaking. We should not, G1 replied. Blood ran down her face from a cut on her forehead, but she did not seem to notice. If we retreat now, everything we have done means nothing. We keep fighting until they break, or we do. The Krathul commander Shiral watched from his flagship with something that might have been fear. He had fought hundreds of battles. He had destroyed entire fleets. But he had never seen anything like this. These humans were not just brave. They were insane. They fought with a fury that made no sense. No, not insane. He realized the truth slowly. They fought like predators, like something that had spent millions of years learning that giving up meant death. They were not trying to win. They were trying to survive. And there was nothing more dangerous than prey that had learned to hunt back. Withdraw, Shiral ordered. His crew looked at him in shock. They were winning. They had destroyed 4 enemy ships. But Shiral saw what they did not. If they stayed, if they kept fighting, the humans would never stop. Even if it cost them everything. The Krathul fleet pulled back. Faster than they had come, they disappeared into jump space. The council ships did not pursue. They were too damaged, too tired. On the Indomitable, the crew stood in stunned silence. They had survived. Somehow, impossibly, they had survived. Admiral Corvin's shuttle docked with the human ship an hour later. He walked through corridors filled with smoke and blood. He found the crew working, repairing systems, helping the wounded. And they were singing. Low, working songs that had a rhythm like a heartbeat. He found G1 on the bridge. She was bandaged now, but still in her chair, still giving orders. Why did you not retreat? He asked. You could have escaped. You could have saved your ship. G1 looked at him with tired eyes. Because you cannot outrun what hunts you, she said simply. You can only hunt back. Corvin stared at her for a long moment. Then he did something he had not done in years. He smiled, a real smile. The legends were right about you, he said. You are terrifying, but I am glad you are on our side. The chamber was massive. So massive that Hyunwoo could barely see the other side through the blue mist that filled the air. 53 different species sat in their seats, each one stranger than the last. Some had scales. Others had fur or skin that glowed in the dark. A few floated in tanks of liquid. All of them stared at him. Hyunwoo stood alone in the center. His simple black suit felt wrong here among beings who wore armor made of living metal or robes that shifted colors. But he was here for a reason. Earth needed this. Humanity needed this. The speaker rose from the largest seat. Velshar was his name. He looked like a giant snake with arms, his green scales catching the light as he moved. He had been the leader of this galactic council for 30 years. His voice came out as a hiss that the translator in Hyunwoo's ear turned into words. You say you come from the dead zone, Velshar said. That place where no ship returns, where all sensors go blind, and yet here you stand. We call it the Sol System, Hyunwoo replied. His voice did not shake, though his heart was beating fast. We did not know it was considered dead to you. We have lived there for all our history. A murmur went through the chamber. Hundreds of voices speaking at once, creating a sound like wind through strange trees. One of the council members stood up. She had 4 arms and skin like blue crystal. Show us proof, she demanded. Show us you are what you claim to be. Hyunwoo nodded to Ji-won, who stood near the entrance. She was young for a commander, only in her early 30s, but she carried herself like someone who had seen too much. She pressed a button on her device. The air above the council filled with images. Earth appeared first, blue and green and white, spinning slowly. Then came images of cities, of ships leaving the planet's surface, of humans building, fighting, living. The council watched in silence. Then Da-Yun's voice came through the speakers. She was not here in person, but back on the human ship, working with her computers. She was young and brilliant, and she had spent months preparing for this moment. What you are seeing is real, Da-Yun said. But I must tell you something else. Something we found in your own records. The images changed. Now they showed old texts, ancient writings from species long dead. Daun had found them in the Council's deepest archives, buried and forgotten. You have stories, Daun continued. Legends about a species called the endurance predators. Beings who hunted not with speed or strength, but with patience. Who could track prey across entire continents. Who never gave up, never stopped, no matter how long it took. The chamber erupted. Some species shouted in fear, others in disbelief. Velshar raised his hands for silence, but it took several minutes before the noise died down. Those are just myths, someone called out. Stories to frighten children. Are they? Daun asked. The images changed again. Now they showed human hunters from thousands of years ago, running after animals for days, following tracks through forests and deserts, never stopping until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. We are persistence hunters. It is how our ancestors survived. It is written in our bones. Hyun-woo watched the council members shift in their seats. He could see the fear in their eyes, but he could also see something else. Curiosity. And maybe, just maybe, hope. Why are you here? Velshar finally asked. Why reveal yourselves now? Because you are at war, Hyun-woo said simply. We have been watching from our dead zone. We have seen the Krathul Dominion destroying your worlds. We know you are losing. And we want to help. Help? The blue crystal woman laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Or conquer. The legends say the endurance predators either became allies or destroyed those they met. There was no middle ground. Then let us prove which one we are, Hyun-woo said. He took a step forward. Give us a chance. One ship, one crew. Let us fight alongside you. If we fail, you lose nothing. If we succeed, perhaps we can turn this war around. The council talked among themselves for hours. Hyun-woo stood there the entire time, not moving, not complaining. Ji-won had warned him this might happen. In human negotiations, showing impatience was seen as weakness. He wondered if it was the same here. Finally, Velshar spoke again. His voice was tired. His people had been fighting this war for 12 years. They had lost so many. What choice did they really have? One ship, he said. You will join Admiral Corvin's fleet at the Calthon system. You will follow his orders. You will prove yourselves there, if you survive. We will survive, Ji-won said quietly from her spot near the door. That is what humans do best. As Hyun-woo left the chamber, he felt the weight of every eye upon him. Some looked at him with hope, others with fear, a few with something that might have been pity. He did not care. Earth had its chance now. They would not waste it. Back on the human ship, the Indomitable, the crew was already preparing. Ji-won walked through the corridors, checking systems and talking to her people. They were a small crew compared to the massive alien vessels, but every person had been chosen carefully. They were the best Earth had to offer. In the research section, Daun was still digging through the ancient texts. She had found something that worried her, but she was not sure if she should tell the others yet. Every species that had met the endurance predators had made a choice. Ally with them or fight them. But there was a third option mentioned in one very old text, one that had been scratched out and written over. Those who had tried to stay neutral had simply disappeared. She closed the file and rubbed her eyes. Maybe it was just a coincidence. Maybe those species had disappeared for other reasons. But in her heart she knew the truth. Humanity was not just any species. They were something the galaxy had feared for thousands of years. And now they were about to show everyone why. The Indomitable's engines hummed to life. Ji-won stood on the bridge looking at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there the Krathul were waiting. Somewhere out there a war was being lost. But now humans were entering the fight. And humans did not know how to quit. Set course for the Calthon system, she ordered. Her crew responded instantly, their hands moving over controls with practiced ease. Let's show them what legends really look like. As the ship jumped into faster-than-light travel, none of them saw Velshar watching from his private chamber. The old snake-like being stared at the space where the human ship had been, He had lived a long time. He had seen many species rise and fall, but he had never felt fear quite like this, because the legends were clear about one thing. Once the endurance predators started hunting, they never stopped. And now they were hunting the Krathul. He just hoped that when this was over, they would not turn that same endless patience toward the council itself. The chamber's lights dimmed automatically as night cycle began. In the darkness, Velshar whispered an old prayer from his people. It was a prayer for survival. He had not said it in years, but somehow it felt right to say it now.